Okay, in the last video, we looked at some of the major innovations in Torah learning brought about by three great rabbis, Rashi, Maimonides, and Rav Joseph Karo. Well, there's another area of the Torah that becomes prominent during this time, and that's the study of Kabbalah. Kabbalah in Hebrew literally means the received tradition. It's an area of the Torah that deals with the esoteric nature of the universe. You could call it metaphysics. And it's a received tradition, meaning it's not something you can necessarily learn from a book. At least that's the way it was originally designed. You'd have to receive it from a teacher. And you might have heard that one shouldn't study the Kabbalah until the age of 40, at least until the age of 40, because one needs a tremendous foundation of Torah knowledge to get to this level of understanding the nature of metaphysics. But let's take a brief look at the history of the transmission of Kabbalah and how it came about to be more prominent this time in our history. So the Kabbalah was given to Moses at Mount Sinai. Again, it's the esoteric teachings of metaphysics, of Torah, and it was something which was a mystical tradition. Only select individuals like prophets, the people of great nature, great mind, and sagely wisdom could actually have the ability to perceive reality with this wisdom. So it was passed on very selectively through many, many centuries for actually 1400 years. And then in 100 CE, around that time, Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai, he was one of the great sages of Israel. He was one of Rebbe Akiva's main students. And during the time of Roman persecution, when Rebbe Akiva was being hunted, so too was Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. And tradition teaches that he actually had to flee into a cave where he lived for a total of 13 years with his son. And it was during that time he lived miraculously, supported by a carob tree and a stream running through the cave. And it was there they lived, not coming out for 12 years and then another year. And that's where he sort of grew mightily in this knowledge base. And in the end, he reveals the Zohar. Zohar in English means the book of splendor. And that's the teaching of Kabbalah. And he produces that. That's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Now, it's maintained secretly for many, many centuries. Then Rabbi Moses de Leon in Spain, who lived in the 13th century primarily, he eventually published the Zohar, which he credited Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai with the writing of. It's published, but the study of Kabbalah is only really revolutionized later on in the 16th century by Rabbi Isaac Luria, who became known as the Arizal. And he revolutionized the study of Kabbalah. The Zohar is very cryptic, very hard to understand. He gave over a system which helped organize the understanding of Kabbalah so the Zohar could be more effectively interpreted and transmitted. And this picture I have here is his synagogue in the holy city of Safad, which is in the north of Israel. So let's get a basic understanding of how the Arizal organized the study of Kabbalah. The focus is around the Sfirot, which are emanations. Altogether, there are 10 emanations, 10 ways the Almighty interacts with the universe. And the big riddle is, how is it possible that an infinite God can interact with finite man? I mean, God doesn't exist in time, space, or matter, and yet we believe that there is a relationship we can have with the Almighty. Kabbalah comes to explain that through 10 different ways, modalities by which the Almighty interacts with us. At the same time, being that we're made in the image of God, it also explains how we can channel divine energy, because we also interact to use these modalities to interact with one another and the world and the Almighty. And therefore we can either, through what we think, what we say, and what we do, can bring the universe closer to perfection, or we can do the reverse. Now, the Arizal didn't write down any of his teachings. It was his prime disciple, Rabbi Chaim Vital, who wrote them down, and as a result, Kabbalah became more widespread within Jewish learning. And you can imagine during the Middle Ages, when it was a very difficult time with tremendous suffering and persecution and a lack of understanding of why we were going through everything, Kabbalah really gets to the root of the issues and explains how everything ultimately comes together at the main source, and it illuminates a lot of the details, a lot of the laws of the Torah in fascinating ways. So it became something which many people wanted to learn, and we're going to see shortly what the implications of that was in the next video. So that's a super brief look at what Kabbalah is, but it's important to realize it was during the Middle Ages, or at least the end of this period, that it became much more part of the lifeblood of the Jewish people. So let's do a little review. The Kabbalah means the received tradition was given over from one person to the next secretly for many years. Moses received it at Mount Sinai. 1,400 years later, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai reveals the Zohar. He puts out the Zohar, the Book of Splendor. That was during the times of Roman persecution. Then, centuries later, Reb Moses de Leon in Spain is the first one to publish the Zohar. But it's Reb Isaac Luria, the Arizal, who revolutionized the study of Kabbalah, and he gives it a system of understanding based around the Sfirot, the 10 emanations, how the Almighty interacts with the universe, how we influence the universe through our own actions. The Arizal's teachings written down by his prime disciple, Rebbe Chaim Vital, and as a result, it becomes more studied within the Jewish community.